Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. Jared Serviss, welcome to The Culture Hacks. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
And this is an exciting throwback. We collaborated on a few things years and years and years ago. So it's pretty exciting to now have you on the show talking about all the great things that you do. And you are a risk resilience and continuity specialist, which is super cool. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, for me, it's kind of a culmination of everything I've been doing. I mean, I started off years and years ago in response as a firefighter, and then it kind of grew from there. So a little bit of training. So now I'm doing a little bit of response, a little bit of preparedness, and then that kind of comprehensive emergency management, looking at the mitigation and the recovery. Then I started to get into business continuity and risk management, a little bit of security, and that's kind of morphed into now, resilience being the buzzwords and bringing all that together, the interconnectedness of everything. So it's just nice that everything I've done seems to have been, it's still building, and I can apply what I've learned in the past as examples or things that I'm working on currently. So it's been really nice to be able to kind of weave it all together.
I love that. And we talk about, the culture on this show, this idea of preparedness and buying into a continuity plan, right? You can have a business, you can write a continuity plan, but what does it look like when a team is actually engaged in the idea of preparedness and continuity?
Oh, and that's so great. That culture, it kind of morphs. Years ago it was around the safety culture, and then it was security culture, and now it's into that risk culture. And it really is, preparedness is that. It's a way of life, and it's behavior, it's mindset, and it's changes that way. And everything we do every day, from the time we get up in the morning till the time we go to bed, there's elements of risk management and everything. Crossing the street, driving the car, do we put the seatbelt on or not? What speed do we go at? Winter tires, everything we do, it's about risk management. And that culture is it's the behavioral changes. It's little things you can do about, do I lock my front door when I go into the backyard? Do I take the keys out of the car, or do I leave them in it? All of those things. Do I have a flashlight? Do I have an extra can opener or some extra food in the pantry? Do I have a little bit of money? And this, I've run into this many times. I mean, my financial reserves, right? A little bit of an emergency stash of money, so that you can kind of get through if things go wrong. Having insurance, that's all part of risk management. And so it's in everything we do. And for a team to function that way, it is just to look at that and to say, well, what are the risks? Which is basically, you start with, what are your objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? And what could go wrong? Well, I'm trying to get to work on time. Well, what could go wrong? Well, there could be really bad traffic. Okay, well, how do I control that? Maybe I leave a little bit early. Maybe I check the weather ahead of time. Maybe I make sure I've got gas in the car and my lunch made the night before. And so it's all just looking at, what are your objectives? What could go wrong with that? And then what do you do to try and mitigate or control what you can to achieve your objectives?
Well, I like how, it's in all aspects of what you do, both personally, and then if you do have a business, because lots of times we talk business continuity and everyone jumps straight to operations. How can we keep serving or keep producing or keep doing the thing? But financially, as a businesses will sometimes take out debt on purpose to invest or to do things and care. But what is your risk tolerance, and what are you trying to do? Because you're right. Maybe there's an economic crash next year, and all of a sudden you have this big, giant, ugly debt that might kill you, right? So
yeah, exactly. Do you have cash on hand? Do you have, operating expenses put away? Have you looked at the debt? And that's good. I mean, debt can be very good as well. But like you said, it's looking at all of those different aspects of it and balancing that. When do you take it out? What kind of debt do you take out? And what are you doing to manage that? So yeah, it's and looking at your staff too, not just about the financial aspect, but are your people ready? I mean, the prime examples is a few years ago now, but I mean, it was in the news a lot at the time and studies done on it, but Hurricane Katrina, where first responders were going home to look after their families because they weren't as prepared perhaps as they could. So not just looking at the finances, from a business perspective, but everyone always talks about, oh, people are our number one asset, our number one resource. Look after them then. Are they ready? How do you expect them to stay at work if they know they're not prepared at home with their families? So that's, yet again, having a winter safety kit in the car, on and on and on, keeping the tank half full, and instead of filling it up at empty, fill up at half. It's that mindset again, or balancing security versus convenience. They don't always go hand in hand, but it's that tolerance. And like you said, the risk tolerance and appetite. When I talk to people or do presentations, I try and bring it down to very simple things that people can understand. And so for me, risk appetite, I'm working on a presentation, a video now on what does that look like? Well, what's your appetite? What does that mean? Well, that's how hungry you are. So how much? And that's your full meal, what you can eat. But then the individual risks are like your individual portions of your carbs, your proteins, all those different things. All of those together make up your full appetite. Now, what's your tolerance? Well, you might like spicy food. You might not be able to tolerate spicy food. You might like sweet. You might like savory, all those things. And so those are your tolerances on the individual risks or the individual plates that you're eating. And all put together is your full appetite, what you can take on. Or incident command system, like I do one where I use a birthday party as an example. And I always joke, I say incident command in 6.5 minutes. And it's just talking about a birthday and the functional aspects of the incident command system and how they apply to events, not just response. Anything you do, a wedding planner, a birthday, a fire, a flood, a cyber attack, the same five things happen all the time. And if you incorporate them, again, into your culture, your behavior, your day-to-day, it starts to get ingrained. And then when something does happen, you're already firing in that mode.
I love that. And I think, it sounds like there's an educational component there, right? If you want people to change the way they think, education is important because it's the risks you're not aware of. They're the ones that are going to get you, right?
That's right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Everyone needs to see themselves in that situation, or what's the value? What do I get out of it? Why would I make that change if I'm not getting anything out of it? If I can understand the why and see myself in it, that's where you get that value. And when I was a firefighter and inspector, I'd go into buildings and help people understand some of those things. And I say, okay, now imagine that it's pitch black, the room is filled with smoke. You're crawling on your hands and knees. That's me coming to rescue you. I can't see this open pit in the floor. So that's why you need to have, these types of things. And then people can see themselves in it and say, yeah, well, that makes sense now. And like you said, those risks you can't prepare for. But if you break it down, just like the other principles of risk or principles of emergency management, they're principles because they apply across a wide variety of things. So by preparing for the basics, getting the foundational stuff in, a couple of weeks to a month of food and water on hand, flashlights. Again, it goes objectives. What do you have to do? Well, make it simple. My objective is to be able to have coffee in the morning. Okay, well, what happens if the power's out? Well, I've got a gas, stove. I can light that. Okay, well, what if that doesn't work? Well, I can go down to the nearest wherever and get a coffee. Well, what if their power's out too? Well, I've got a camp stove and my little camp. Okay, but now you said, okay, here's all the things that could go wrong. Here's how I still meet my objective of getting my coffee in the morning. And, I can light a campfire, all those things. And so by breaking it down to that, it doesn't matter what the cause is. So we need power to work at this pump station or whatever it is. And well, what's the cause? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a terrorist attack, a storm, a utility hit, a tornado. It doesn't matter about any of those things. The power's gone out. So how do we deal with that? Well, we have a backup generator. We have a second feed coming in from a totally separate grid. So if it's a backhoe that hits that first line, we've got a second line. Then we fire up the generator. My house here that I just finished building, I'm tied to the grid. And then I've got batteries that are always charged in case that goes down. I've got two separate attachments points that I can plug into. I've got solar panels. And so, backup on backup on backup. And what happens if this goes down and this goes down? Again, what are my objectives? I need power for these things. So it's just breaking it down to and like you said, well, we can't solve for everything. Well, no. And that's the same as all hazards emergency management. It's not that we have a plan for each and every hazard. We have a structure that we use to respond in a standardized way to all of the hazards. And so that's what gives us our strength, is we don't have to be able to solve for every variable. We have a foundation that we use no matter what's being thrown at us. And that's resilience, being able to adapt and overcome to whatever it is, even if they're not entirely prepared for that exact thing.
Oh, I love that. I can really see, like it says on your LinkedIn, you're passionate about preparedness. I can see that. I can see it come through. But last thing, if you were to give people out there one piece of advice for their business, what's one thing they could do that would be super impactful?
I would say for your business, no matter if it's, you're the only employee working at it or a big business with lots of employees, again, look at your objectives and what you do and boil it down to that. It's usually really simple things you can do. If all of your records are on one computer and it's not backed up in the cloud, okay, well, is your computer underneath a sprinkler? Look about that. I need to protect this computer. So at least, have it under your desk or back it up on a floppy disk. But again, look at the objectives and look at those critical things that you need to have those objectives, whatever they are, whether it's making the coffee, whether it's paying your staff, whether it's making a product, keeping the doors open, the lights on. You can usually break it down to some really, really simple things. And like you had said, it's about education. So just learn a little bit. There's lots of resources out there, sometimes too many on the internet. You don't know, not all of them are accurate. And you don't know who to trust, but check out find somebody that you do kind of trust and respect their opinion, and you kind of like the on things, and then check them out and see what they're offering and learn a little bit, educate yourself. That's the key. That's where it starts, and that's what builds that culture.
Okay, I love it. Well, thanks so much, Jarrett. I hope people watching get some gems and some ideas from this. And thanks so much for your time. I look forward to potentially collaborating in the future.
That would be fantastic. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.